name is Carly McDaniel, and I am going to be discussing Joseph Merrick from the novel The Elephant Man, and hopefully present you with a better understanding of his personality and other characteristics about him and his life. Joseph Merrick was an English man living in London whom had severe deformities to his face, feet, and his hands. His head measured 36 inches, roughly 1/3 larger than an average human's, which interfered in his balance and ability to sit or stand. He also had a severely crooked spine, which made walking very difficult and uncomfortable, a condition that doctors had never seen before. In a conservative London society, Joseph Merrick was immediately dubbed a public indecency, and his deformities made him an outcast. This made it, of course, very challenging for him to maintain any decent relationship with anyone, and for most of his life, Merrick endured the pain from rejection, abandonment, and loneliness. Of course, considering his condition, the likeliness of anybody hiring Merrick was close to none. Thus, he was forced to make his living by posing in a freak show for a man with selfish pursuits. Merrick was helpless. The freak show was all he had as a source of income, and he forced himself to endure through both physical and verbal abuse from his manager in order to make his living. Can you imagine? Not only looking like Merrick, but having people pay, and not even good money, to point and laugh at you, or witness the horrible reactions on people's faces when they look at you. It is not something Merrick was oblivious to. He knew that people thought he was a freak, and he often shielded himself away from people when they look at him. He longed for normality, to be surrounded by people who genuinely care. Merrick wanted people to see him for him and have them realize that yes, with the eyes he may appear different, but is truly no different from anyone else. After a life of rejection and humiliation, all Merrick wanted was to be accepted. When Merrick is enlisted at the London hospital under the care of Dr. Frederick Treves, he is given a slight sense of hope. He now has a chance to receive proper medical care and attention, and finally, after all these years, figure out what's wrong with him. But even in the confinements of the hospital, Merrick still feels like an outcast. Treves tried to find a proper nurse to care for Merrick at the hospital, but none could bear the sight of him. So Treves hired famous actress Mrs. Kendall to assist Merrick. When Merrick talks with Mrs. Kendall, we see a whole new side of him, and we observe that he is very politely spoken and an intelligent man. His thoughtful and sensitive views on Romeo and the nature of love surprise Miss Kendall, and they enjoy a lovely conversation together, one of which Merrick hardly ever experienced throughout his entire life. And after their conversation, and Mrs. Kendall shakes Merrick's hand, he immediately dissolves into tears because it's the first time a woman has ever shaken his hand. This illustrates how important Merrick felt at that moment when somebody for once seemed to enjoy his company. And I mean actually genuinely enjoy his company, which illustrates Merrick's longing for normality, to have these sorts of experiences and feel like a regular human being. Not a year later, Merrick passed away, but for the few that got to know him before he died, they witnessed what it was like for someone to be an outcast in society. Merrick was an intelligent, polite, patient, and caring man whose only wish was to belong. But in my opinion, he did not die without purpose. Merrick became famous throughout the world for his rare deformity, and many are inspired by his life story. All Merrick wanted was to feel normal. But because he wasn't, people grew inspired and took action against public discrimination. So did he die? No. His story will live on forever. And hopefully, through my analysis of him and the life he lived, I gave you an insightful presentation on Joseph Merrick, and maybe perhaps inspired you too. Thank you.